Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gale Darkness video where today we'll be taking on the game with just a Tauros. Now Tauros is well known for being one of the best Pokemon in the first generation, and I think it's going to be really great in this game as well, and that's because of a few things. First, its stats. It has 75 HP, 100 attack, 95 defense, 40 special attack, 70 special defense, and 110 speed, and gets access to a lot of normal moves as well as all of the elemental moves like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower. It also gets Water Pulse and Solar Beam, so it really doesn't lack all that much type coverage. However, because most of those moves are on the special attacking side, so while it's not getting the most value out of them, they are still valuable to have. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our Tauros in particular has a quiet nature, raising its special attack and lowering its speed. While not the best nature, I do think that it's already fairly fast, so speed shouldn't really be an issue, and raising that special attack is definitely going to help with some of those elemental moves. And it gets the Intimidate ability, which lowers the attack of the opponent's Pokemon whenever I get switched in, so really only at the beginning of the battle. And according to Bulbapedia, it gets Tackle, Tail Whip, and Rage by level 10. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is pick up Mimic from the Tutor Lady, and that's just because I only have normal type moves at the moment, so this will allow me to hit ghosts and other types as well that resist normal moves. And as you might expect from a Pokemon that's a single stage, it got through the early game fairly easily. Now you'll see me using Rage here, and that's because I looked it up and apparently Rage is pretty decent. At least I think so, because every time I get hit I get an attack buff to Rage's damage. So it ends up being better than Tackle only after a couple hits. And because I'm so tanky at this point in the game and all these Pokemon are very weak, I can take a lot of hits and really build up Rage's power. So I found it to be quite useful, at least in the first area of the game. Unfortunately, because it has only 20 base power, it definitely loses its edge fairly quickly. Anyway, all that's left is the Horsey. I go for another Rage to nearly take it down in a single hit, but it's not doing enough damage to take me down, and I finish off the old man. Okay, well, before I move on, I decide to do a little bit more leveling to get to level 13 to learn Horn Attack, which I'm going to teach over Tackle. And I decide to go against the Green Power Ranger because all of his Pokemon are level 9, and so they should all be a one-shot with Horn Attack. Anyway, time to commence just a little bit of rambling. If you are enjoying this video so far, consider liking, and if you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. And also thank you for all your Pokemon suggestions. I've been seeing a lot of requests for me to do more duos, which I will start doing fairly soon. I have already a couple videos after this one that are solo challenges, but I think for and around Valentine's Day, I'll start doing a whole bunch of duos. So I already have a few in mind that you have suggested and that I want to do myself. So I'd just like to say thank you for the continued support on these videos, and with Green nearly being defeated now, let's go ahead and move on. Now I decided to do Mount Battle right away, and while I do think it was worthwhile, I didn't need to do it just yet, so I feel like I wasted a little bit of time there. But anyway, I get to the fight against Lovrena. She leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly. I go for Horn Attack to take down the Love Disc in a single hit. Out comes Roselia, and the Beautifly hits me with Thief, doing very little damage. I'm able to take down the Roselia in a single Horn Attack. Then out comes Delcatty, another Thief. This one gets a crit unfortunately, but it really isn't doing that much damage. Anyway, so I'm able to kind of just ignore it and take down the Delcatty. And then all that's left is the Beautifly. I decided to go ahead and teach Pursuit over Tail Whip, and Tauros, not one to be taken lightly, takes Beautifly down with a critical hit. Okay, well, we move on to the obligatory Mirror Bee. How you doing on this fine day, Mirror Bee? Well, good to hear it. Anyway, I move on to the Rogam Tower, where I pick up my two favorite TMs, Hidden Power and Protect. And I'm going to teach Hidden Power right away, which just so happens to be what I think might be the best Hidden Power in the game, Hidden Power Rock. And that's because it does well against all three of the legendary birds at the end, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So anyway, at the Tutor Lady I go ahead and teach Body Slam over Horn Attack, and at level 34 I get the move Rest, which I'm going to teach over Pursuit, which leads us into the battle against Snaddle. He leads with a Lantern and a Quagsire. I go for Body Slam, which isn't quite a one-shot on the Quagsire, but it does get paralyzed and fully paralyzed, so that's great. I didn't get hit by Rock Tomb. I'm able to take it down on the following turn, and then Lantern's just hitting me with fairly weak shockwaves. Water Pulse is doing very little to Lunatone. Okay, well I thought I'd do a little more than that. So now I'm getting hit by Fruity Pebbles. Now because my health is so low, I decide to go for Rest to get up to full. But unfortunately that does quite a bit of damage. That takes me nearly to half, and the Fruity Pebbles actually take me directly to half. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of training in order to be able to take down the Lunatone. So I go to Mount Battle, do a bit of training, and come back. And now Body Slam is a one-shot on the Lantern. And out comes Lunatone. Quagsire actually misses a Rock Tomb. Water Pulse still isn't going to take down the Lunatone in a single hit, but now it is a two-shot. So it's not nearly as big a threat as it was before. It's still going to set up Fruity Pebbles though. I finish it off with a following Water Pulse, and then out comes Cast Form, which should go down to just a Body Slam, but now that I've had my speed drop twice, I might actually be slower than it. Nope, never mind, I go first and take it down in a single hit, and then out comes this final Pokemon, a Metang. But before I take the Metang down, I need to get rid of the Quagsire because it's constantly dropping my speed. So it goes down, and then all that's left is the Metang, which gets a crit on Metal Claw, but it's not really going to matter. Water Pulse isn't really doing that much damage to it though. Confusion's not really doing too much damage to me either though. Another Water Pulse, and it gets confused, hits itself, and Water Pulse finishes it off. So that's Snaddle. Soon after, I go ahead and teach the move Ice Beam over Water Pulse, and I go into the battle against Gonzap. He leads with an Electrode and a Nuzleaf, but because the first turn Nuzleaf always goes for Fake Out, I'm not going to be able to act. On the second turn, I take down the Electrode with a Body Slam. Out comes Vileplume. Nuzleaf seems to be going for Feint Attack and not Hyper Beam this time. Ice Beam isn't quite enough to one-shot the Vileplume, so it hits me with a Sleep Powder. Luckily, Sleep really isn't that bad of an effect in this game because I can just call to wake myself up immediately. Vileplume uses Giga Drain, not really doing too much damage, and I finish it off with Body Slam. Then out comes his Whiscash. Now because my health is getting fairly low now, I'm going to go for Rest just to heal up all the way. And Nuzleaf's Feint Attacks really aren't doing that much damage to me. I am going to have my speed lowered, but it's not really too big an issue because everything he has is fairly slow. So I end up waking up only taking about a fifth of my health and damage. Go for Body Slam, which isn't quite a one-shot on the Whiscash, so it does hit me with a Hyper Beam. But now it won't be able to act on the next turn, so I decide to target the Nuzleaf to take it down. Out comes his final Pokemon, which is a Skarmory. I go for Ice Beam into it, which isn't quite a one-shot. It hits me with a critical hit, Hyper Beam, which does quite a bit of damage. And I go for Body Slam, and now I'm actually slower than both of his Pokemon, which is a little concerning. I take down the Whiscash, and all that's left is Skarmory, which doesn't get a crit this time, and goes down to one last Ice Beam. So that's Gonzap, pretty easy. In the Pyramid, I teach the move Earthquake over Rest, and we go into the battle against Gorgon. He leads with a Celio and a Lairon. I go for Body Slam into the Celio right away, which takes it down. And then out comes Slowking, and I go for Earthquake because now Lairon won't protect, so I'm able to take it down in a single hit. Slowking survives on just a little bit of health though. I go for Body Slam to finish off the Slowking. And then out comes his first Shadow Pokemon, which is Shadow Primeape. I decide not to learn Takedown in a very messy fashion. I go for Earthquake, which doesn't quite take down Ursaring, but does take down the Primeape. Out comes Hypno, and Ursaring goes for Rook Break, doing a little bit of damage to me. Earthquake finishes off the Ursaring, and then Hypno survives with just a bit of health as well. But one last Earthquake finishes the job, and Gorgon goes down pretty easy. So as I expected, Tauros is doing really well, but can it keep up this momentum into the late game? Well, let's find out. The first boss fight is against Lovrina. She leads with a Gardevoir and a Gorbis, and I go for Earthquake, which should one-shot both of them. Takes down the Gardevoir in a single hit, but Gorbis actually survives on a little bit of health, which is unfortunate because it hits me with Attract. So now it's a bit lucky if I'm able to hit another Earthquake. I'm immobilized by Love the first time, and the second time, and Leech Seed is somehow missed twice, which it's a 90% accurate move, so that's insanely lucky. But eventually I'm able to attack through the Infatuation, which brings out her two Shadow Pokemon, Shadow Altaria and Farfetch'd. I go for Ice Beam to take down the Farfetch'd in a single hit, because it likes to confuse, and then another Ice Beam to take down the Altaria. So there goes the battle. At the top of the volcano, I teach Protect over Hidden Power, before going into the fight against Snaddle. He leads with a Quagsire and Metang. I go for Earthquake to take them both down. And while Metang goes down, Quagsire actually survives with just a bit of health, but misses a Mud Shot. Scizor is able to survive, and I get a crit on Quagsire, which wasn't necessary, but it's good to see Tauros' heart is in it. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have a move to hit the Soul Rock for any decent damage, so I go for Body Slam, which is going to be a 3-shot. It's able to set up Shadow Sky, preventing me from healing with my leftovers. I go for Protect here just to stall out the Shadow Sky. And then Scizor's really close to going down itself. I go for Ice Beam, which might have been able to 2-shot it. Another Silver Wind. It gets an Omni Boost, which is a little threatening, because now it could actually do quite a bit of damage to me. I go for Protect, once again to stave off the Fruity Pebbles. And Scizor is getting very close to being taken down by them. I finish off the Soul Rock, out comes Cast Form. Silver Wind takes me down to 19 HP. I go for Protect once again, to heal up just a bit before taking down both Cast Form and the Scizor with Earthquake, which Cast Form actually does go down, and then all that's left is Starmie. Now I do want to play it safe, so I decide to go for another Protect, just to heal up to as much HP as I can. And as I suspected, Body Slam doesn't take it down a single hit, and we're both left at slivers, but I'm faster and take it down. Okay, well that was a very close battle. We move on to the battle against Ardos. He leads with an Alakazam and a Swellow, and I decide to take down the Alakazam right away. Swellow goes for Shadow Sky, which isn't too bad. I go for Protect here, just in case it goes for Shadow Half like it does. It takes Kingdra down to half health. Fruity Pebbles rain down, and I can safely take down the Kingdra. And then out comes this Heracross, and more Fruity Pebbles rain down. Now I decide to go for Protect again, just in case it's going for Shadow Half, like it does again. Okay, well that's really lucky. Now Heracross isn't really a threat at all, with Brick Break or anything like that. So it goes down, out comes his Shadow Electabuzz, and just to play it safe once again, go for Protect, and it goes for Shadow Half again. And the other one goes for Shadow Half. Okay, well neither of these Pokemon are all that threatening anymore. I decide to take down Swellow just because I know I can take down the Electabuzz with Earthquake, and also do damage to the Snorlax, which it's doing about half. And it hits me with the Shadow End, not really doing that much damage, and one last Earthquake finishes it off. I love an easy Ardos. Anyway, we move on to Gorgon once again, who leads with a Slowking and an Ursaring. Body Slam takes down the Slowking in a single hit, and then out comes Aggron. Now I go for Earthquake just to take down the Aggron because I have a feeling the Ursaring doesn't go down. And then hits me with Brick Break, really not doing that much damage. Go for Body Slam into the Walrein, and it uses Earthquake, doing very little as well. But I'm able to take them both down with my own Earthquake, and then all that's left are his two Shadow Pokemon, Shadow Poliwrath and Shadow Mr. Mime, which should both go down to just a couple Earthquakes. Now, because the Shadow Poliwrath is always going to go for Shadow Sky on the first turn, it's not really all that threatening right off the bat. So it sets up Shadow Sky and goes down to Body Slam. Pretty easy Gorgon. Moving on to Eldis. He leads with a Shadow Manectric and a Ninjask. I go for Earthquake to take down the Manectric right away. And then out comes Salamence, which should go down to just a single Ice Beam. Ninjask is going for Silver Wind, so I do need to worry about it getting Omni Boosts. I go for a Protect here just to stall out the PP of Silver Wind, which it hits me with another, really not doing that much damage. Ice Beam does actually take down Salamence in a single hit. Out comes Flygon. Go for another Protect, which allows me to scout out what the Flygon is going to use, which it just seems to be Double Edge. And the Ninjask just used its last Silver Wind, so it's not really a threat anymore. And then out comes Shadow Marowak, which can always be a threat because it's holding the Thick Club item. I go for Ice Beam, and it gets a critical hit and takes it down in a single hit. Well, that's quite nice. Then out comes his final Pokemon, which is a Shadow Lapras. I go for Body Slam into it, which looks to be a 3-shot. Luckily, I do get a Paralysis on it. It sets up Shadow Sky, go for another Body Slam, taking it down fairly low. Hits me with a Shadow Storm, doing quite a bit of damage. Fruity Pebbles rain down, and all that's left is one last Body Slam, but for some reason I decide to go for Protect here. It's not like Ninjask could actually do anything to me, so I'm not sure why I did that. Anyway, Lapras goes down, all that's left is the Ninjask, and I'm able to take it down with one last Body Slam. So that's a first try victory against all of the hard bosses at the end of the game. So all that's left is the battle against the big box legendary Shadowwolgia, which Body Slam's doing about a third to. Get a lucky paralysis on it. Go for protect here just to heal up some. Go for another Body Slam. And unfortunately it never got paralyzed, so I do take quite a bit of damage in this fight. But it goes down and we move on to the battle against Greevil. He leads with a Moltres and a Rhydon. I go for Earthquake to see how much it'll do to Rhydon, and it's not quite a one-shot. Luckily it just goes for Shadow Hold, so I'm able to take it down and get myself up to level 68, which is perfect because after I lose this fight, I can use up all my rare candies and hopefully beat this fight on the second attempt. And that's because of the move Hidden Power. Now this is a 56 base power Hidden Power Rock, which effectively makes it 224 base power against Moltres and Articuno, so I know I can take them both down in a single hit. So out comes Executor. I go for Earthquake, which I know takes down the Rhydon in a single hit. Really doesn't do that much to Executor, but I have Ice Beam for taking it down. He uses Shadow Hold. I go for Ice Beam into the other Tauros, which survives, so it's able to set up Shadow Sky. I get hit by Shadow Wind, doing a little bit of damage to me. I go for Protect just to heal up and to stall out the Fruity Pebbles. And then go for Earthquake to take down the Tauros and do some damage to the Executor. Out comes Articuno, which even with the attack drop from Tauros shouldn't be enough to make it not a one-shot. Executor hits another Shadow Wind. I go for Protect just to stall out the Fruity Pebbles. And I go for Hidden Power into Articuno, and it actually survives on quite a bit of health. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. And here's the thing, I really thought that this was going to be a second attempt, maybe third try attempt. This is now attempt number 10, and aside from the usual Rhydon and Executor luck needed with Shadow Winds, as it turns out, I needed another 3 levels to even make the Articuno a guaranteed one-shot, and the other Pokemon I struggled with, funnily enough, was actually the other Tauros. And that's because no matter what I did, unless I leveled to a high degree, there was no way for me to take down the Tauros in a single hit without a crit, so it's always able to set up Shadow Sky. I go for Hidden Power now at level 77, which does take down the Articuno, and then out comes Zapdos. Now Zapdos isn't a one-shot either, but because most of my feints happened before I even got to the Zapdos, I really don't have too much to say on it, other than it did take me down a few times. And Ice Beam isn't enough to take it down in a single hit. It hits me with a Shadow Bolt, doing quite a bit of damage to me. And an Ice Beam finishes it off, and then all that's left is the other Tauros, fittingly, who sets up a Shadow Sky, and goes down to an Ice Beam. And with that, we beat Greevil. So how well did Tauros do? Well, it beat the game at a time of 8 hours, 58 minutes, and 50 seconds at level 77, and fainted 13 times throughout the game. 9 of those being to Greevil specifically. So overall, I'd say throughout 95% of the game, Tauros is amazing. It only lost to 3 random trainers, only lost to Snaddle 1 time. It did need a little extra training, but it wasn't too far out of the way to get just a few more levels. And so that's why it ends up in the A+ tier. Certainly a great Pokemon to use in this game. It just kinda struggles against the final boss, and had I not had Hidden Power Rock, there's a good chance it would have been even more difficult, because I would have had to resort to either using Double Edge for the extra damage over Body Slam, or having to use either Flamethrower or Thunderbolt as my other coverage options for Articuno or Moltres. And the other thing to note with the final battle is that maybe I got a little too tunnel visioned, because had I just reverted back to my save when I was a lower level and I did a little bit of extra training, it probably would have been faster to get those 3 or 4 levels that I need to actually get a victory. But I had some weird ranges where at one level I was one-shotting and the next level I wasn't, so I'm guessing I was just getting really high rolls and then really average or low rolls on the next attempts, so I definitely didn't help in the amount of losses that it got, but I do think that it deserves its spot in the A+ tier. So with that, if you did enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.